The market knew that Hollande was going to win in France. That was no surprise to anybody. I think the result was much worse in Greece than people expected in terms of, the mainstream parties that support the austerity and staying in the euro.
Right. You had a good showing by the Nazis. The Nazis had a
very
good
showing. Showing by the Nazis. I mean,
the communists and the Nazis did very well.
Well, it's not actually a laughing matter. It's pretty serious what's going on with the far left and the far right in Greece. But I think people have basically got Greece fatigue at this point. They're like, do you know what? We've been told so many times that Greece is going to blow up the world, or blow up Europe, and it hasn't happened. And I think that, people have cried wolf, and at this point people are saying no.
All the other European markets generally were up. Spain was up.
And given that in the futures markets, they completely got crushed. So I think there was a huge turnaround. Yeah.
Right. Let's talk just a little bit about Greece. Do you think there could have been a worse outcome for the markets? Meaning, if you had asked people a few days ago...
If the fringe parties had got 80%, clearly that would be worse. But no, this was worse than expected. No question this is worse than expected. But again, I think that there's been this kind of slow view building in Europe that, look, Greece can be solved, and ultimately it can leave the euro at some point without catastrophe being created out of that. And I think that, you're seeing it today. You're seeing people say...
What about France? What about France? Does it matter who's running France? As long as France has to go to the bond market to borrow money...
But by the way, can I just go back to Greece very quickly, which is...
You better do it fast.
I'm going to do it very fast, which is... I actually think people are being too sanguine about Greece. I don't think... No, but the issue being, you shouldn't expect a massive sell-off on Greece, but I think that if you get to the point where the new government cannot be formed, where actually you cannot get any decisions on austerity, and Greece does have to leave the euro, I don't think people fully understand the implications of that. I think you wrote a column ahead of the Lehman collapse saying markets had priced this in, it was all fine. The reality is markets can't price in this. So if you get to that point, I think we may be being too sanguine about the situation. But anyway,
let's turn to France. I like that. I like the way you got that cheap shot in on me. Really.
Well, is it true?
That's
is there an element of truth?
No, I kind of admire that because that's the kind of thing I would have done to you. Now, turning to France. Turning to France. Does it matter as long as the bond market basically is going to keep control over what's going on in France? Does it matter that François Hollande wants to tax the wealthy by 75%, or that he wants? I mean, does it matter?
No, not particularly. I think that if he follows through and gets very radical in terms of unwinding stuff, like bringing retirement ages back down again and this sort of thing, clearly, France, I've forgotten the exact number, but they've run a deficit for 20-something years at this point. And so if the market feels that they're just going to go straight back down the wrong direction, that's a problem. But it's going to be nuanced. There's going to be a lot of debate between Berlin and Paris. And frankly, they have I don't think there's any reason for them to clash and have some huge spat about this.
Okay, I think it's next week or in the next couple of weeks, Hollande goes to Berlin, meets with Angela Merkel, and what does Merkel say to him? It's like, too bad on you.
No, she says to him, she says, we're sticking to austerity, and we'll add a bit of growth, which is fine. So we'll have an austerity pact, and if you want a growth pact to go with it, that's fine by me. And so I'm sure that you can add all that in. Everyone's talking about growth. Olli Rehn is talking about growth. Draghi's talking about growth at this point. And of course, everybody wants growth. That's great.
But I mean, that's just what does it mean? The word growth, it's like an empty word.
It doesn't mean anything. It means you'll have a bunch of Euro meetings. Everyone will talk about how wonderful growth is. Structural reform will be there. And everyone will say, if we do all this stuff, we're going to grow again. And probably nothing will happen.
Right.
But you'll have changed the tone of the debate.
We got to go to the Thorold Barker fearometer, which we still have out there. Now, last time we were here, you were kind of in the yellow zone. And my guess is that you're still kind of there. But you could please correct the graphic as you see fit.
So I think we're in the same place that we were. I actually think it's a little worse than the market thinks today because I think Greece is real.
We're closer to red. Closer to the red zone.
Again, I think the Greece situation is more important than people think. I think people have kind of got so bored of it, they've ignored it. And I can understand that. I'm fairly bored of it at this point. But I do think that the one thing that will keep this okay is that what you've got to the stage at is that the European Central Bank is now, it's always going to step in if necessary. I think it's pretty clear now that it will do that. And so whether you get some great agreement between Eurozone countries or not, that they will help each other, at the end of the day, through the back door, the ECB will socialize these debts anyway. So I think that ultimately you can head towards red, but they will come back in and pull it back to
yellow
to not
gray.
disaster.
Okay.